Well, hello and welcome to the Cheap Multi-Ad stream. A little bit late, apologize. I was making a chocolate malt. Yay. I don't think this mic arrangement's gonna work. Casting a shadow on my face. Trying the old over-the-head type arrangement. We'll see how this kind of works. Hopefully it's coming across okay. Yeah, it looks dumb. Alright, how about this instead? Definitely need to turn the gain down from above my head to in my face. That's quite loud. There we go. Now I can't see anything. All right. We're getting there. We are getting there. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we'll be working on my Dungeons of Treptera. Continual work. Hopefully get that working better. See how it goes. What's this doing? Yeah. Centered. Gotta be traveling through the maze and all centered. Alright. What are we doing today? Well, semi heads down. Working on some menus. And such. So I just gotta get my bearings of where I'm at in this code. Start to see if I can play. Dungeons of Treptera is a old retro style computer RPG, kind of modeled off of Wizardry back in the day. And you go through a maze essentially and fight monsters. Deeper in the maze you go, the more, hopefully the stronger and more cunning they become. And then you gain experience to make your adventures more powerful. And rinse and repeat, basically. Not incredibly taxing. It's your standard dungeon crawl, fight monsters, beat monsters mechanic. Kind of a simple way of playing. But, I kind of enjoy that, so that's what I'm going to make. Let's see if we can get... There we go. On a menu system, kind of in the process of maybe replacing the menu on the technical side of things, just so that I can make other menus without having such a teeth-pulling experience. I want to do this, trying to make it a little bit more modular. We have the keyboard input. Or you could just use keystroke on your keyboard if you wish. Also, you could mainly use the controller to play, but you could use your WASD or arrow keys to move things around to emulate that. Cancel. Such. Doing a light retro test, basically. Hey, did the previous functionality still work? Or they made a little change? Making sure that the still works as expected. It's always fun to add a new feature or change a feature and destroy everything else in the process. That's usually a bad side of something. Backed up too much. A little test of the maze there. Good old chocolate malt. Chocolate malt consists of New York vanilla ice cream, whole milk, malt powder, a dash of vanilla, and blend. Good stuff. So I'm kind of working on deconstructing the menu into some abstract classes, and then adding the functionality to at least get one menu going. I do have in some menus more than just basic functionality, and as I make this more generic, I gotta make it so that it will handle all the special cases or the slight variances of the menu. So the idea would be, so I'm having an abstract class that kind of just paints out this is what it should be. I can pass around then the abstract class and perform pure menu operations, but then inside of the actual object that I'm going to define how to do it, it will then dictate exactly how it works. So I'm separating two systems. One system is going to work within the other. I'm not using interfaces at the moment. I don't need to go that far right now. But essentially I have two different systems talking to each other. I don't want one system to really know how the other is doing it. It just expects the outputs to, it has an expectation of how to initiate an action and an expected response. What it does inside its own borders or walls, it doesn't care. Type of thing. One way then is to, you can go full on chain of an interface, which is like a contract saying this is what is expected in and out. Then you can have an abstract class that says, okay, this is a framework on how do you build it, and then you actually have the concrete object or the derivative that does the actual work. As with everything, though, things kind of bleed over to one and the other, so you can pass references of the type abstract class, and you can have a system that uses that, or you could pass around the interfaces. Now, you could have the abstract class implement the interface, and then in turn have your concrete class, set up to run all the needs of the abstract class, and then ideally what you do is you pass around the interface. Why? Because once you set the interface, you don't set or make changes to the existing functions or properties or things of the interface. You can add more to it, but you can't take away. You're kind of setting into concrete, this is the expectation of operation, and then you build systems off of that. Then your abstract class is kind of an in-between. You're trying to make a little bit more of a fix to how you're, a little in between of how it should be implemented and how you are going about implementing. Gives you some flexibility of living in between that space, and then of course you have the main object itself. Now, there's nothing wrong with going and creating main objects that don't pull from others. So from that standpoint, it doesn't instantiate abstract. But then, if you ever have to make a change to how that object behaves, you have to go to all the code on the outside and determine, okay, how are you using it? Do I need to make the code changes? And so these layers of abstraction kind of helps shield away changes. In my world, it isn't an absolute between all these things. There are tools. It's easier to be taught, you do it this way and only this way, and you're a fool if you do it any other way. Now, that's not really how the world ends up running. Either you're going to have a hard time trying to adapt to the world, or you're going to spend a lot of time trying to make the world become your oyster. Good luck. How about try to learn it as a tool set and make use of it as such? What does that mean? Well, if you could make a program code that uses nothing but the intrinsics, meaning the base types of the language and data, yes, you can make a fully operational and very fast and complete program using nothing but intrinsics, arrays, simple switch statements, things like that. It works, it's coding, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you're trying to have a team of 100 work on those type of things, well, there's reasons why you have the languages and why they can do what they do, because, there's been hundreds of people trying to work on the same stuff, and this sucks. Let's change it. So someone makes a new language. There you go. So, anyway, that's kind of a little bit of a idle chatter about languages and whatnot. Being in the industry and having to deal with going into code someone else wrote and fix it or enhance it. A lot of times you can go in there and say, oh, this is all done wrong. This shouldn't be done this way. I'm going to be a superhero. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to change it all up and see to my vision and what I've been taught. And then no one else can fix it. What's the point? Yeah, you got to be able to do that. So always degrees of intent when it comes to code. Yeah. So that basically has nothing to do with anything I'm trying to do at this moment. I'm trying to give some time to my subconscious to figure out, hey, what am I trying to do? Do I remember anything? That's what happens when you spend 8 hours working on other code projects in the enterprise, and then you get time to do your work of your hobby work, as it were. Basically, there's not much difference between what I do in hobby and what I do for money. But I do have to deal with a finite resource that's called brain power and fatigue. So, what am I doing? And I have a headache. Ugh. Oh yeah, right. So the main screen, let's see if I can get this up. Oh, it popped up. Nice. Open. Something up there. MS Paint. So yeah, after I do some coding, I have to turn around and do all the artwork. So I apologize. This is programmer art, but that's what it is. Yeah, there's the main screen. So the menu system essentially set up so that you can, you're gonna, outside of this, you're gonna have a mouse. I really can't see that, can you? Brush. Yeah, so you have your finger, over here. What does that look like in the code? Well, let's see. I have a two-part system. You can have a container of menu that holds the menus, menu items, and then the menu items describe how to draw itself, and then eventually it's going to have like a generalized contract, maybe saying like, hey, what happens when you select this menu item? Perform that. And so a lot of times in the menu, especially in this game, a lot of the menus are going to have almost 80% of the same kind of code. So if I could pass in a callback function or something that represents, hey, when you do select this, send this to this other function, send this data on to the engine to make the decision. If I could make a system that makes that all as generic as possible, then I could have 80% of that code done, and then I just got to finish out the remaining 20% that's special to this menu. That's what I'm doing here. Like you have the Dungeons of Treptera menu screen and the Dungeons of Treptera menu item. The idea would be you're going to pass in the menu screen is going to be a collection of menu items. So you have this generic T representing that. And then on the generic items, there's generally some sort of data structure that's going to represent the internal state of what that menu selection would represent. So with that, I decided, you know what? I'm going to expect an enumeration. Not a specific enumeration, just that the data type is an enumeration. So that's the abstract class. You're going to have virtual methods. Most of them virtual because, by default, if I don't implement it, I don't want to be forced to implement it. I just basically a NOP operation. That's fine. Otherwise, the child class is going to actually then override and say, hey, what happens when you navigate up on this menu item on the screen? The screen is also going to go ahead and implement a generic list. So it's going to derive off of a generic list. So I'm basically creating a specialized list for that. Now, there's a lot of details in here, of course. A list is going to expose all kinds of operations and such. I'm not trying to make, in this particular case, it's what are you making this for? I'm not making a library for general use of the public. I'm making it for myself and future self. So yeah, I'm not going to have every bit of like, oh, what happens if you add an item? What happens if you add the item during callback of asynchronous? You know, you're gonna have collisions. Are you trying to remove an item? That's not the intended use, and I'm not going to encode in all the possible cases of protection in that case. But I am cognizant of them, and as the need arises, I will have to add more code as needed. But in this case, it's just going to be a list of type T or a menu type. All right, so then you go down to the menu item. So dot menu item. You will notice, I'll go back to the screen. T has to be of type menu item E, and E has to be an enumeration. So your class has to derive from dot menu item in order to be a valid list object for this class. In the menu item, then we're going to then expose that state variable, and then we're going to have some commonality here. So like over in the picture, which is blocking everything I mainly described, unfortunately. Essentially, we have these menu items over here. Like the icon reference name would be this thing right here. Oop, let's draw this. Can I draw? Yeah. That's the icon reference name. It's a resource name. It's going to be, the system's going to interrogate this object and say, hey, what icon should I draw? And it's going to be an icon that is going to, or not an icon, but I call it an icon. It's just a texture. And it's going to retrieve that from the menu, or retrieve that from the core storage, and it's going to make use of that. So menu offset essentially is where on the screen you want the menu to be. So in reference to the screen object. So the screen represents, for example, imagine this, well, actually the screen would be something like this. And of course, I have a blinding flashbang. I certainly apologize for that. It's dumb. Fix transparent selection so we don't do it again. Perfect. Right. So yeah, you got. Oh gee. Try this again. So this is the screen object that will be used for all Dungeons of Treptera DOT menu screens. Then, within the item itself, the menu offset would then be the coordinate 00 being up here. Would be the offset as where it should go. Then within this block, essentially, it's going to then indicate from this point, it's going to now offset from here, build, and draw, like, okay, the text should start here, and each line of text goes here, and that represents the menu items. And that's what we do with that. The item icon offset is basically from the point where the menu is supposed to go, where is this thing supposed to show up, and the text is where this block of text is supposed to start. So if I say here, up here, then each line will start lined up vertically, and it'll go down like this, and each line is basically the distance between a whole line of text. So how tall is the font? The largest font, or the largest letter in that string, it's going to then drop down an equal amount. So you have nice good spacing, automatic spacing controlled. And then the menu pointer offset is basically instructing, okay, now where on the screen do you want that little hand to go? In this particular case, menu pointer offset says, I want you to point here. You know, somewhere over here. As such. Now, and then we have an array of submenu text, which is specific to the dot menu item. It is supplying, it's basically saying any object that derives from this, you're going to get a submenu text array. Each line is going to represent what you see in the text. Now, what this particular setup is going to be is a little bit opposite. What you see as the top line, I'm going to make the top line a little bit stylized, a little bit brighter, and then the rest of the text below will just line up below. So this is the old screen. And the screen is actually one big piece of art, and I just had to figure out, okay, where are the positions that you can select for the menu. Now I'm breaking it down into, let's try to make this more programmatic. So let's say in the future, at some point in time, I needed to change languages. All my art has been directly printed onto the screens in English. I have no way of changing any of that unless I rewrite all the art, which probably happened anyway, but the less of that, better, of course. So yeah, so we're going to go ahead and just for name only, we're just going to get a definition of right now the dot menu item currently is suffice. So we're just going to create a dot menu item main item object that's going to use the town POI enumeration as its data point. There's not, and basically that's all it's declaring. It's just basically saying, hey, this uses town POI as its data point. Everything else is the same functionality. And then the dot menu screen main is going to basically be, all right, I am the main screen. That's going to be use the collection of main items. And that's what you're doing here. You're passing in then the derived class dot menu main menu item. I mean, you could use an abstract class. Kind of hard since you can't instantiate, so no, you can't do that. But yeah. So this basically builds at this juncture, I guess. At this point, it builds on when the object is instantiated. And you might say, hey, Chief, this stuff seems to be like, you know, static. It's going to be stuck in memory. Yep, a copy of this will be always in memory, ready to create the screen. And it's functionally added like this. So the first iteration is, yeah, we could set this up inside the constructor. But at some point, as long as I create a system to load this in, this information could be translated into, or put into a configuration file, and now you have a dynamic system, more data-driven, potentially. But for right now, I'll develop in steps. So we're using C# shortcut here. It says, hey, just already know the type to say the word new. Sure, but if you don't have IntelliSense, they're like, new what? I guess it's going to be the main menu item. So I basically got the paint program over here. And with that paint program, essentially, kind of looked at, well, let's see, let's kind of get a general idea of mapping out how we're going to create the screen. And I said, the menu offset is going to be at 200. In other words, all the menu items are going to be based off of the pivot point 200, 0. That seems mighty. Oh, never mind. Way up the top. Way at the top. Probably should be at 50 there. Well, it's just be drawing inside the leaves. Anyway, and then so everything's going to be pivoting off the 250 point. Now, the first menu item I'm going to add welcome. Okay, we add the welcome. We want to offset from here. We want to offset 20 by 40. XY. Use the welcome reference name, which I have an object called welcome in the collection of 2D textures. And then I'm going to create a submenu text. Here's all the text. And then here's the offset where I want that block of text to be located in reference to the combination of these two numbers, menu text offset and menu offset. This is a referential. It's not like, well, I can say when you make an HTML, you can have like an absolute and a relative. This is a relative coordinate. As a developer, it might be useful to say item text relative offset to kind of infer, hey, what are you doing here? Because right now I just know it's a position. Is it position on the screen itself, or is it a position within this menu? So there's maybe a room improvement there. So yeah, you have the item count with 0, so 0, 1, guide. I have the enter guidance, and so forth. You build it out 0 through 9. 0 through 9. Wait. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 0 through 9. Okay. So that basically builds. That builds out here's a menu for the main screen. All right, now then, up on main screen, you have something called a render screen, and that's an abstract void, meaning I want a method name, render screen. I'm going to pass you the sprite batch responsible for drawing the pictures. It's up to you as the implementer to actually have something do it. But I just expect you to do that. All right, fine. Down below, excuse me. Here we go, the render screen. Overriding, passing in the batch. Right, for every item in this, because remember, it's a list of menu items. I want to go ahead and, now what you could do if you're having, now, for each is an item enumerator, and let's say you are needing to do list manipulation. This will make a shallow copy of another list of your items. Doesn't copy and create new item objects. It'll still have the same references to each of those items inside the list, but the list itself will be different. Now, if you needed to iterate through the main list and then say you want to remove items, you could say temp.remove. It does that way. It will not mess. It will not change. It won't mess up the original list. And such. I'd probably do this backward, but anyway, I'd actually do this backward since I am a derivative of the list. I would say in temp, and then if I had to do any erasing, I would say then this dot remove and move forward. But that is just something to kind of think about. Now, do you just automatically set things up this way? Well, I mean, you don't have to, but this is kind of, it gives you that intent that if you do need to make changes, you will be doing it on this object. Anyway, there's a little something to think about. This. All right. First thing we do is we go retrieve the menu header icon from the dungeon scene, which is that static list of objects. There we go, you pass in the icon reference. That's going to be a draw texture, which is a extension function. Basically says, hey, I want to take that 2D and I want to be able to paint that onto the sprite patch, wherever it may be pointing to. I'm going to expect to be using the main font as your font. And we want to offset that by XY coordinate on line 1. Because drawing textures are all based off of a text block. So it's taking the information off of the main font. It's going to take this coordinate. It's going to determine the height of the average height of the main font, and do a horizontal midpoint, and align the header icon middles. That's how it's going to set up that process, which probably is going to be wrong, but I'll just go with that. All right, now that we're done with that, first thing it wants to do is we're going to go ahead and draw the title. And introduce the title. It's a function call I have. With that, you're going to pass in the sprite patch, what font type you're using, the menu text offset. This is, where is that block going to be on the text? Then after that, it will. I'm going to always, because this is specific to the screen or this menu types, I'm going to always expect the first record is going to be the title of the menu, and I'm going to basically fade in like it's kind of like a 3D effect. The background of it is going to be dark light green, dark green, and sea green and light green. Creates the effect, and it's on line 1 like this. Now, it's going to go ahead and say, well, how many other lines of menu do we have? Maybe we just have 1, but if we have more, excuse me, if we have more, then we go ahead and make sure, is the max lines greater than 1? Go ahead and iterate through them, skipping the first one to the end. And because you maintain the same text offset between these two, and you're indicating the line number, starting with lines, this was, 1 through them all. So if I have 3 lines, it's going to be 0 through 2. So I'm going to draw 1 and 2. Well, 0 or text line 0 went on. I'm sorry. The text for line 1 is here, and then I go for 1 and 2 means now put it on lines 2 and 3, and that's how it lines those things up like that. As we're set up. So yeah, it'll iterate. This draws, as render screen, it draws the menu item. Now, for navigation, remember it's 0 through 9, so I have 10. 0 through 9, huh? Let's count those again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I do have 9. Right, 9. Right. 0 through 9. Did I count with 1? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 0 through 8, 9 of them. So yeah, if I navigate up, that means I'm basically, if I navigate up, I just want to go through the menus in order backward. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, as you move up and move up. So if I keep moving, if I move up on Bustling Town of Treptera, for example, I'll bring that back out. If I start here, and I push the up arrow, moves up, then it's going to start here. And if I move up again, I go here, and here, and here, and here, and so forth, all the way up to back up to here. The other behavior would be is if I hit the top of this and I want to go up, I should come down here and then go up again. And then same thing here, I go up again. And same thing for down. From here, I'll go here, 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 and I should pop up back here. So, to do something now, I know that I ordered the menu linearly, 1 through 9, 0 through 8. And because of that, I got to think about, well, this is 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Right? So now we got to decide, okay, so how do I want to handle this? And let's try to do this a little bit. There we go. So we have that. As I move up, I got to determine, well, where am I starting from? If cell index is less than 4, do this, else. Right. Or you could say something like this. Switch. Selection index. Case 4, case 8. And case 0. Right, and then break. Break. And break. Okay. All right. We're starting at 0. So obviously -1 is always going to be less 0. We're at 0 and we're going to go up. So we could just simply do this. Boom, done. Now if we're at 4, we're not going to go to 3. So if it's less than 4, so once again, if it's at 4, you go, Oh, I'm just going to iterate through this anyway. I'll complete this and then I'll change it. But I discovered there's some logic issues here, but that's okay. If it's at top at 4, it's going to go to 7, and if it's 8, special case 8, I'll just make this go back to 0. Right? And you can do fancy math. Now, fancy math's not that fancy, but you know, situations where it's like, okay. Otherwise, if I'm in between all of those, case default, no, just default. Basically saying a big else to all this. We can go like that. So what you're saying is If I'm starting on 0, we're going to go to 8. If I'm starting on 4, I'm going to go to 7. It should be 3. 7. And if I'm on 8, I want that set of, well, if I'm at 8, we stay 8. Because we don't want it to, if it's in this case, we just break. Don't really need to assign it again. Yeah, so that won't ever be called. And 8, you try to move up when you're on 8, and there's nothing there to move up to. It just stays there. If you want to change the behavior, that's where we would go. So yeah, so this is navigating up. Now, if you're navigating down, right? So if we're down, that means if I'm on a 3, or if I'm on a 7, or 8, do these things. If I'm on a 3, go to 0. And if I'm on a 7, go to 4. Otherwise, just add 1. Right? Let's do right. So on the rights, we're going to have 0, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Right. If it's a 0, we go to 4. If it's a 1, we go to 5. 2, we go to 6. And on a 3, we go to 8. Otherwise, we subtract 1. No, can't do that. So I'm going right. 4 goes to 0. 5 goes to 1. 6 goes to 2. 7 goes to 3. 8 goes to 7. I mean, it's a switch statement, you know. Pretty concise. It works. And you could do it differently as well. Maybe if I add the switch statement, switch, cell index. Right, so now we're going left. You know what? I just treated the right as left. If I'm on a 0 and I'm going right, I'm going to go 4. If I'm a 1, I'm a 5. 3, 1, 2, 3. 0 is a 4, 1 is a 5, 2 is a 6, 3 is a 7, 4 is a 0, 5 is a 1, 6 is a 2, 7 is a 3, no, 7's not a 3, 7's an 8. What am I? 6 goes to 2, 7, I'm going right, 7 goes to 8, 8 goes back to 3. You have to switch around. Lots of things switched around. All right, we'll just grab this for structure-wise, and replace this. Now I'm going left. Right, going left. Oh, gee. What are you doing? Blow it all up. Okay. Right. Navigate left. Going left. I'm at a 0. I'm going to... Did it again. If I'm a 0 and I go right, I go to 4. If I'm a left, I go to 4. If I go left, I go to 4, and if I go right, I go to 4. One goes to 5. 2 goes to 6. 3 goes to 7. And moving left. Think about left. Left and right's mixed up already. Clearly, I do not know my left from my right. What am I doing? Pathetic. We're moving right. Moving right from 0 goes to 4. Moving right from 1 goes to 5. Moving right from 2 goes to 6. And moving right from 3 goes to 7. Right. Moving right from 4 goes to 0. Right from 5 goes to 1. Right of 6 goes to 2. Right of 7 goes to 8. And right of 8 goes back to 3. Wraps around. All right, now we're moving left. Left of 0 is 4. Left of 1 is 3. Oh, no, it's 5. Can't read my writing. Left of 2 is 6. Left of 3 is 8. Left of 4 is 0. Left of 5 is 1. Left of 6 is 2. Left of 7. Left is 3. Left of 8 is 7. Ta-da! Now, what else you could do is this. Four, 5, 6, 8. 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3, 7. Right? And you could do something like this. Selection index is equal to nav left of the current selection index. Converted a switch statement into an array of choices, because the array is going to set the index to a valid index of the entire array. It's always going to be in bounds because we're not actually going to be setting the select index outside of this process. Therefore, there you go. So same thing can be done here. Int array of nav right is equal to 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, 1, 2, 8, 3. And same thing. Now, basically, all I'm doing is I'm writing the code to kind of help me understand what I'm doing, and it's kind of a canvas, right, or a scratch space. Yeah, syntactically, this will work fine. But if I were to convert these into an array of data, potentially could be more performant, although the compiler can do some pretty good optimizations even in switch statements. And who knows? If the compiler is smart enough, it might have just internally converted it into a lookup table anyway. And what I'm doing is just spending time spinning my wheels. I have found that over the years, compilers have at once become much more smarter and more stupid. Your mileage may vary. So in this particular case, we have an infinite amount of choices. So in this case, this is trickier, but you could do it, I think. Int is nav down is going to equal to this array. Now, obviously 0 is going, if I'm going down, see 0 goes to 0 goes to 1, 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 3, 3 goes to 0, 4 goes to 4 goes to 5, 5 goes to 6, 6 goes to 7, 7 goes to 4, 8 stays 8. There, translated to an array. Now you could say cell index is equal to nav down cell index, like so. And mouse button helps if I hit, what am I doing? Hit this please, there you go. Brain fartage. And finally we have up, right? Int array nav up is equal to 0 up. 0 is going to go to 3. Yep, 0 goes to 3, 1 goes to 0, 2 goes to 1, 3 goes to 2, 4 goes to 7, 5 goes to 4, 6 goes to 5, 7 goes to 6, and once again 8 goes to 8. Cell index. There we go. And we'll just kind of copy that out because why not? So yeah, now we've unpacked this case statement. Now, a problem with something like this earlier in the stream, I kind of talked about when you're building out these menus in the system here, I'm obviously hard typing what to make as a menu. And now I have hard typed what to do about the menu when you select certain navigation points. And really? Yeah, certain navigation points. Hard-coded. Well, yes, technically I could make it read-only. So, I just kind of repositioned the definitions here. Now, these are hard-coded. What if I went to a data load system, right? Well, what? I would lose all those references. So another thing you could do is imagine this. What's nice about list is it's just basically an array, some added features to it, right? You could do something like this. And because I really don't like a lot of extra typing, for example. All right, so I just added the first menu option, right? Up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right. Right, so I added my first item, right? Load nav. 3144. Bet you could do a matrix math on this. I'm not gonna do it right now. It doesn't exist. I just put it outside the. I forgot to tell you what it was. Compiler goes, I have no idea what you're talking about here, sir. I just don't know what it is. And that's perfectly fine. Just realized I didn't advertise my stream today. That's okay. Just push this button where it pops up, nobody knows. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Steaming. Game dev. Dooba-dooba-doop-doop-doo. Places here. Apologize for a little break. Doing a few things. Oops. What else can I do this? There we go, I'm back. Appreciate being here. Yeah. Alright, so what this will do is there's a matrix. And I'm now dynamically creating these objects. So load this. Now we can load the second one. So load nav. And it's going to be 0255. And the third one. 1366. 1366. And then after that, we're going to load nav. Two zero eight seven. 2087. Seven five zero zero. Like so. And then on this one, let's do load nav. The next one is sequence 4611. And then getting close to the end. Not quite though. Load nav 4611 45722. 2,2, come on now. And I think this is not quite the last. 572 6438. 6438. And then the last one. Load nav. Almost messed that up. 8873. There. Now I am technically dynamically loading these things. And we can make the C# style nannies all happy. To let them know, to let myself future know, my future self know, this is inviolate. You touch it, you get compilation error. There we go. Happy little lists. Now, unfortunately, the chocolate malt was made with a couple-day expired milk. I know I'm taking a chance, but food's expensive, and we can do as long as we possibly can. Being this is a shorter stream, and if there's unforeseen consequences from drinking expired milk in my malt, I will be off stream and primed and ready to take care of such unfortunate accidents. Let's hope that does not happen. I would not recommend this at home, but technically, just before milk expires, it gains a potentially intangible, better taste. And then it goes to crap. Just saying. Straight to poo. Okay. All things you eat go straight to poo, but that's the whole nature, right? Fun times. Yeah. Interesting. All right, so we have kind of loaded out the navigation using math matrix. Now you can see why I created this helper function, because setting up a bunch of nav up.add, nav down.add, and nav left.add, and nav right.add, and do it over and over and over and over and over. No. Let's not do that. Kind of itching to see if this works. Just take your time. I think I spoke too soon about that effects of expired milk. I'll have to bear with it. Then again, I think maybe being slightly lactose intolerant is probably outweighing any other future issues imminent. Order of operations. Much like programming, your body does follow order of operations. A lot of parallel there. But Chief, I didn't expect to get toilet humor when I came to the screen. It's not really. I haven't really got to that point. I don't really plan on doing that. Just saying. All right, let's get rid of the screen over here, because I don't want to accidentally save and screw up my game file. Nasty. I'm gonna get some stream elements. Going here. Be nice to have little fun things happening. Stuff to overheat my computer, cause thermal events. And such. I'm surprised I was able to get looks kind of weird. Had a little bit of green on my shirt. It's a green screen. Got some kind of weirdness going on. These wires bringing out my ears. All right. So that's the navigation. Let's go up to... Oh no. If we navigate somewhere, we need to get the current selected menu. Yes, we do. So, current selected menu is equal to... Actually, I'm going to take all that out. Nice. So in fact, the screen will now have the selected menu item. And then, where do we start? Well, if we start here at 0, probably should do this, right? interesting. Alright, so this is a pretty static menu, honestly. Static menu. Do-do-do. Alright, let's get another example going here. Go ahead and go up and turn MSP down. Let's turn up the old let's go to game a little bit. Alright, so hopefully we're going to get some sort of interesting. Hopefully get some sort of replacement for the main screen with the new system I'm putting in place. Now, on this particular menu system, as you go down, you're just going to go down through the list of menus, repeating back up the top, and not be so specific to the area here, right? Another example that I'm doing is like charters. See how this stays this way, stays that way, and I can't go left or right here. So this is how the new menu system was kind of modeled after. So on this particular case, back up here a little bit. So say I selected this menu item. I'm technically in a sub-menu. So as a sub-menu, how do you genericize the sub-menu system? Well, something like that. Basically a text reader. B for back. Pardon me. And then same thing for here. Now here's a case for having something like an interface. The submenu interface would basically say, if I were to chain menu systems, this is just another menu screen that belongs to this main screen on the selection, right? Excuse me. So, hello, Moonbase420. Thank you so much for joining my channel. I certainly appreciate that. Thank you. I hope you enjoy some game dev. I primarily have been developing Dungeons of Treptera on the stream, kind of code-centric a little bit. So I'm trying to get better at kind of describing things I do versus just being my heads down and no talking and coding a little bit, but once again, thanks so much for following. Appreciate that. So yeah, basically the menu system here. Ideally, I would like just to take, all right, it's this menu, go in here, it's another menu, and then this menu the second menu then will handle the interaction here with something like that. So code-wise, what does this look like? Well, let's go to code. So The main screen here is a derivative of the dot menu screen of type expects dot menu items, and it's all the necessary hookup. Now, if I wanted to create submenus, where does that live? Should menu items know about menus, screens? Because you could do a situation where, okay, let's go up to the generic or the abstract class of that represents a menu item here, and you end up doing something like this. Let's see. I'll just throw it out here. I'll tidy this up a little bit later. And I'm going to say menu screen. Now, immediately you notice there's some problems here. Right. Oh, is this going to understand this? That'll be interesting. Sub screens. Right, since I made a generic here, right? Of a menu screen. But this is incomplete. It's not quite. This can be multiple abstract classes. Little base. Let's see. I've been working on Dungeons of Treptera for about 2 years. It's been through several iterations. I started fully on like September of 23, and I decided, hey, Cobbler has no shoes. I'm a programmer. Why don't I have a game yet? Let's make my favorite game. And I kind of decided, well, let's see, I don't know game engines. I do know, I know the boilerplate code type of programming and systems, but I don't know like the game engines. What do I do know? Well, I can make services, I can make websites, I can make those types of stuff. So the first iteration of Dungeons of Treptera was, I'm going to create a game that's going to run inside of a web server, and then it's going to use the browser as the display terminal, essentially. And with that, so the game doesn't actually run in the browser at all. It just treats it like looking at a website. The website becomes specialized in that the game's running inside of it, and I'm going to render screens accordingly to the game state. So I started with that, and it's a website. And I'm a Spartan web developer. I make things functional. I'm not incredibly gifted at making great UI decisions. It works, type of thing. So, and there's a lot of different things a lot of different technology stacks. You got to worry about the web front end before you could actually get into the game. Do those type of things. So I was doing that. I would then convert it over to more of a mobile strip so that vertically it would show better that way. And I got more and more thinking, I need to figure out how to put this into a game engine. The majority of the game runs as a library, and the rest of it is interface to that library. So the game itself runs, or the game is coded mostly in that structure, and then it needs something to wrap it around. So I was looking at the different types of engines out there. You got Unity. Now Unity would probably have been a choice then. Of course, the big kerfuffle with the Unity licensing and stuff kind of steered you away right in 23 to 24. And then, you had Godot, which didn't quite have first-class C# support, but you had, GD script. You have GameMaker. GameMaker is a good platform. But most of that would say, I'm gonna have to convert all this game code into the construct within those engines. Which would then just like rebuilding the game from scratch again. I don't quite want to do that yet. So along came looking through some different things using the game engine database. And I thought, what's this MonoGame? kind of heard of it before. It sounds familiar. And, it's the old XNA product that Microsoft used to have. And for Xbox game development. And they've kind of let that go to the side. A nonprofit group grabbed onto that, and now they own that. And they've been basically updating that process, that game system, as MonoGame now. So that's pretty cool. What's all into that? Well, it's code first engine, but it requires you to code it, which was, from my standpoint, coding isn't so bad. Now I don't have to worry about a bunch of implementing 2D graphics and all, start making a whole game engine myself. I just I don't want to go that far. So I was rapidly able to start translating this into MonoGame, and that happened about the beginning of December of last year. So I really like what I'm doing with it. I'm just doing 2D sprite, 2D game, not a lot of action graphics. I don't need physics and stuff. It's just show picture, choose options, and fight type of thing. But it does open up a lot of different things. Since then, if you go to I have an itch.io page, I have a link on my channel. I did stop a little bit and made a fixed shooter game called Virus Blaster. It's also in MonoGame. That was fun to make. Helped me kind of solidify some of the functionality of the graphic capabilities of MonoGame, get me some more experience in that. That was another. So basically, it's Space Invaders, except you have pathogens falling from the top, and you shoot them before it destroys your cells at the bottom. So that's Virus Blaster, and I just got to add more levels and maybe make it easier to play. But that took me about 3 weeks to kind of complete. That was really nice. So then I came back to Dungeons of Treptera, and with that, it's just basically I could do a little bit of a. This is the main menu. I have game music right now. I just don't have it on at the moment. But yeah, it's your typical computer RPG. It's kind of styled off of the old retro. It has a little bit of retro look, kind of the wizardry. Oh, certainly. Oh, very nice. So you've tried a fair amount of engines and frameworks, settling on just rolling your own with Odin Lang. Yep. And finding myself being far more productive and actually getting things released. Absolutely. Finding something that works within your tool set or it doesn't require steep retooling, and it works the way you think, how you put things together. Yes, it definitely allows things to start getting developed and pushed out faster. Yep. I was doing okay with the website. It was just that it'd be nice to, because I was thinking, how do you release a game that uses a web service as its engine and a browser? Well, yeah, you could run it locally, and you have a whole different set of, issues, which is kind of germane to my software development that I have to do outside of my hobby. But at the same time, it's like there's a reason why you don't do that too, and then you have all that support. Yeah, my computer doesn't support this, or my security settings don't support that, and oh boy. But ultimately, what's nice about having it on, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to still finish it out on the website, because you could run the game. It just looks different, but it can basically run the same game. Is that, say you purchase the game. If you want to host the game on your own web service, go ahead, host it. You want to change out the game, because a lot of the game itself is data-driven. So all the weapons, the armor, the spells, the effects, I have fixed classes, but a lot of that stuff is editable. The data is either it's going to be JSON or YAML, and you can give a completely different experience. In fact, if you can go in and change the mob images. Say you wanted to make a space game styled like this, but you could change your graphics. So by purchasing the game, you could then run the game how you like it, change things up, be a dungeon master of sorts. And because it's on the website, you can have multiple people. It's not an MMORPG. It's a massively online single player. So many people could play at once. They just don't play with each other, type of thing. Which later on you can maybe add some capabilities to do that. So that's on pause. But with like something like Mono, and even going into Mono, that then leapfrog into, okay, or I can go another engine, maybe. I could package this up now and get it to be deliverable through, like, say, a Steam client or the itch.io client, and more of a package. You could run on a computer and not have to depend on different, little more complex things like setting up your internal web server type of thing. But, I mean, ultimately, there's nothing to say that this game itself could have some sort of API capability. Let's say I would run a online server and you just connect your client to it. That would give you the ability to, say, host your own flavor of dungeons. Then again, you could now go into the DM side of things. So it's just some ideas. The old website used to have, I was also building editors inside of the website. So you can draw and create your 3D, not 3D maps, but you can create your maps, which are 30 by 30 rooms for every level. And with that, you can draw the walls and what spawns, what kind of monster, what's the percentage of chance a monster spawns, what table lookup are you using, and what treasures go where, and what traps go where, and kind of a quest system too. And then you can go into an editor for your weapons and things. So I was really creating some dev tooling in the web space so that I can go and finish out the game with the data. Well, you get that as a owner of the game. I will also port those over to this game. So yeah, this game will have an on-screen builder mode where you can go in and create your own scenarios. So it's going to be fun. I'm kind of hoping to have at least a playable demo probably the end of conservatively, probably the end of summer. We'll see how things go. Be kind of nice. But yeah, you just have different places where this kind of describes a little storyline of, what is the dungeon. The Adventurer's Guide and Guild section basically says, okay, breaks down what's a character's stats, what are weapons, what are armor, what are abilities, your iconic roles, which is fighter, cleric, mage, thief, and then you can have some advanced roles, which are going to have basically a little bit more, not necessarily more power, but they have more capability, more fun, different other aspects that's unlocked by game activity. You could probably win the game with all of the 4 basic types. I think it'd be tough, and then I'd have to add some things to make it a little tougher so that you would be inclined to grab a couple of these other advanced classes, for example. The guild hall basically is you go in, and I've been working on this part where you create a charter. It's basically creating a party. You're going to create a new party, or do you want to clear the party name? And then if you're using a controller, you could do your keyboard, for example, or you could just type on the keys through the keyboard itself. Basically create a party name. Once you create the party name, you can recruit adventurers. Right now you have it like, you could pay 5 silver. Well, or I'm kind of working on that part of it. But yeah, you just go in, you want a fighter, you get to re-roll it, get to rename it. And then you can either accept that into your roster or you can dismiss, for example. And then some of these menu options, I just kind of put them in there. I might have to change them out a little bit. But yeah, you recruit the adventurers. Train and evaluate is more of the situation where you're like, okay, I'm gonna grab an adventurer and level them up when it's time, and do some, look up all their information. On the recruit adventurers, I need another essentially I need to find a place to stick the adventures into a party. It seems I don't have one here. I think it's under inspect. I'll need to work on that, but essentially this is the active party. You get to see what your characters are doing. You can see all the items they have on them, different flags. I'll need to have a help screen, but basically it's you have a position of your party. So if I were to pick Bob, for example, you can move it over and change his position. Currently, I do not have a filter system. I mean, when it becomes a single-player game, I mean, you own it. You can just say whatever you want. But if it's online, it'd have to go through a word dictionary, and it'll be as restrictive. I don't want it to be stupidly restrictive. Oh, you contain a word, it blots out the word. It shouldn't. But at the same time, on the online version, the people who are running it are the people who purchased the game, per se. So it's going to be up to them to moderate their own stuff. Give them some moderation tools, but ultimately, what I did basically what it would do is it would flag the name. Maybe only display it with it'll display the offending part in asterisk. Flag it. Your system operator will be getting a message saying this name is suspect, and they could change it or not change it, or ban, that type of thing. Because ultimately, everyone's gonna figure out how to get around the system, and we don't want to have a situation where if it is like online, griefing and such like that, you just gotta nail it right off the bat. If I was making this more online, I'd probably be one of my more focus points at the beginning, really, when it sits before it really goes live, is the common sense moderating tools. Because a lot of people are nice, but there are just a few jerks, and I like to. They do love nothing more than messing around with that kind of stuff. So yeah, you kind of watch out for that stuff. But yeah, if it's your own personal game, do what you want. Just only I can say personally is, hey, parents walk in and see that on your screen. How do you feel about that? I mean, some people don't care. Other people are like, yeah, you're right. Maybe I shouldn't do that. I might even nod to that. I might say, hey, character name. Maybe your character is something you care about, would care what you say. But yeah, I'm not going to. I would suggest that, you don't want to wallow in filth. So not a good idea, right? But yeah, you basically, the game is Guild Hall. That's going to be your party services, essentially. Create characters, move characters around, dismiss the characters, upgrade the characters. Maybe you find a special item, and you get to become something. Or you go on a quest. Your fighter goes on a quest. You can become a paladin. Or now you get paladins. The Boar Snout is basically your place to rest and regenerate and food. If you get to stay for a night, for example, on a kasha. Food and drink is this menu will change out based off of your average party level, and or let's say you found certain things in the dungeon. You come back here, you get different food because you found some interesting stuff. When you eat the food, the idea is it's going to give you some hidden stat bonuses, and I'll hint toward that. Either an extra attack, maybe adds elemental damage to your attacks. It might give temporary hit points, different things like that. Or in special cases, increases the chance of your spellcasters to find a discoverable only spell. Fun little things like that. Certain effects, you might have to have an effect on your characters, because in order to defeat a monster, you might have to have a certain effect on you. So, game lore, different things like that might point you toward that. I have a dubious slime here, for example. When Dreknar decides to eat the dubious slime, he gets very sick because I'm testing out the healing system of sleeping. He is visibly upset with the dubious slime. Not very good for him, right? So I have to go rest. Just for a night. You don't get a whole lot of hit points back. So let's rest for a week. Yeah, that type of thing. So I have like the different kinds of a week, a month. I'm toying with the idea of having character age. You're spending years at sleep. I mean, your career is not going to be that long if you have to spend a year every other year recuperating from the attack type of thing. Of course, job quests and stuff. What is interesting is the game development. There's the technical aspect of creating the code, creating the game. But once that's kind of in place, you still have to create the game. I mean, okay, fine, I have these things. Now how do you create the game? What does that mean? Well, I got to actually go and start painting creating the levels, creating the monsters, just coming up with the stat blocks, give them what kind of special powers they have. Because you're creating a system where all these rules is going to work. Now I'm going to use those rules to now define the parts of the game. And so some of that I still have to do. I was trying to get to the point where I could do that, which is the fun. It's all fun. I mean, for me, it's fun. And also at the end, you just hopefully don't have something that I guess would suck too badly. It's my hope on something like that. I hope it to be enjoyable. Like I said, it's a very niche type of game where if you like that kind of game, and this is great. If you don't, well, it's a different kind of game. But yeah, you got your kind of missing out on the music and stuff here. I could probably switch over to it. So I guess this is your town music essentially. There's your in music. I borrowed some resting. So I try to pick the background music to kind of flow with the rest of the game, to kind of be part of the ambiance, part of the experience. You got the guild hall. No background music. Probably need to add some click, 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 a little bit of that as you move stuff around. Parts, weapons, and services. So you get to buy your weapons. Like a great axe, for example. Right. For those that like cutting down on their enemies seriously. The club, standing at the issue, not into dancing. I'll stick in dad jokes as much as possible. The light hammer does not actually forge light, less weighty cousin to the hammer. You get to pick who shows like who has what weapons are currently equipped, and then you have what's in the inventory, so you can kind of get an idea. Right now, they don't have enough money, so I told you. Armor, same type of thing. And trading is going to basically allow you to unusable items you could sell for money and do it here, or you want to get rid of your old sword that you don't need anymore. At half price, of course, a deal. You have Arcadia. This is where you're going to learn music. Not learn music. Learn spells and such. So this is the fighter. He said you can't do spells. Bob can. So is Melinda and Roxy. Levels 1 through 7. And then you get to pick what spell to learn and how much it costs. If you learn spells, or if you find a spell book in the dungeon and you try to learn it, you may know it, but you haven't learned it, you can go back here to remaster it. And it'll tell you what spells you need to be remastered. Cost a little gold, essentially, and you get to roll another chance of getting the spell. And then you got scrolls and artifacts I gotta fill out. The gnarled rut is where you buy your consumables, your potions, your salves, vials, and other things that are basically consumable. Potions will do healing. Salves are only used by, say, clerics or celestial types, and basically it's another type of healing. Vials are things you throw that explode or have an attack, and only your mages can do that. So you have different items that most specific characters can use, for example, here. The unfortunateness of adventuring is always with peril. And there's times where, you may have somebody who has expired on you. Unfortunate. So in that particular case, what you would do is you would have resurrect your characters, cure characters from diseases that you can't do in field, and it works off a patronage system where you donate money to the Celestial Heroes and Soul Emporium, and based off of the amount you've donated, depends on how well they do their job. And then, of course, the adventure is, I'll manually change music out here. So yeah, now I need to work on the actual graphic of, displaying your characters and such over here. But yeah, you can move through the maze. Go through. I was basically doing this on the website. It was kind of cool. The first thing I actually converted over was getting the maze navigation to work. Go back up. And then the battle simulation would be something like this. So I'm going to go up against the white slimes. And I have a fighter. And you can go through, give an option. You can only do an item, an ability, or fight or parry. So you fight. Natasha will fight. Bob will cast a spell, level 1, armor. Linda will cast a spell, sleep spell, on the white slimes. Silk will do an ability for shadow attacking, for example. And Roxy will just parry for now. And then at some point I need to activate the battle, so I'm just manually do that. It goes through the process, and basically it's going to give you a text description of what happened, and you get to get a blow by blow what happens here. And if it's long enough, I'll have a scroll capability to scroll through this, and then you can move on. And right now we have 0 out of 0 left, so that technically it's over with. So yeah, we're still kind of working on those things as such. Yeah, exit the program a little bit there. Yeah, it's kind of a little sideways to kind of describe a little bit about the game. I'm currently working on that menu system. Right now, the coding, I've kind of made it, what do you call monolithic? I kind of made it, each menu is its own. It's almost like I'm handcrafting every menu. Not quite, but the support for not cut and paste functionality being not duplicated was getting a little bit out of hand. And so I'm in the process of, hey, let's kind of step back and let's rebuild the menu system. And that's what I'm kind of working on, essentially, is with the menu system. I'm abstracting it out a little bit and allowing it for me to work on it. So yeah, so I'm kind of getting back into more of the deeper development now. But with that, restore some music here. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed what you see so far. I hope it's going to be a fun game at some point and kind of get that going. Early in the stream, I was talking about, well, you have your abstract classes and you have your concrete classes and things like that, and not wanting to use, say, an interface and things like that. Well, I'm making generic abstract classes. that means there's yet another layer of abstraction. It's going to be based off type. And so I have even more permutations of these. And I got to the point where I'm thinking, if I have a main menu and I made a selection within that main menu, but I wanted other related menus based off of that primary selection, maybe I should have some sort of submenuing, or at least some idea of how to coordinate these other menus belong to that selection. So right now I'm kind of exploring that. Well, at first I was going to say, well, I need to make an interface. Because generally, you can have an interface, which then an abstract class can implement the interface, and then your derived classes will implement the abstract classes, and you can go down that line if you want to. There's many permutations to this, depending on your need and how you want to do it. But in this particular case, I thought, I need to just make a list of other menus. Wait, I have an abstract system. All right, that's fine. Let's put on the menu item a way to know that these screens belong to it. I have a generic type here. This data sets up based off of the type of screen that you want to implement. And it's self-contained. In other words, I'm a screen, I implement my menu items this way. What is shared is... Sorry, I gotta turn off the graphic. There we go. Gotta get my frames back up to 60. I'm streaming on a potato laptop. Okay, so you can't make a list of abstract classes that are generic abstract classes. But you can if you use an interface. If I created an interface, a single definition, I could have a list of objects that are of that type. So another option of that is I could do something more along the lines of let's see if this works. I don't think you can have generic typed get setters, but we'll see. they have it outside of this. Alright, just trying to figure out this mental puzzle here. Okay. On a list of screens, so dot menu screen of type menu item menu main item. think the object will do this. How will it know at compile time what types are used and what can be inferred? I'm not sure. I like how this is all cascading down. So let's just finish this. It's not just strongly typed, it's like fortress typed. Oops. Get rid of this junk. That all still needs work. Thank you so much for these tier 1 subscriptions. Thank you. I certainly appreciate that so much. My own alert has scared me. Thank you. I'm tooling around on my code here. I've tried to do something very grievous. I'm trying to make my menu system more generic so I can implement more menus without tearing out my hair, propagating and continue to build on garbage, as it were. So I'm trying to create more. Now, just trying to get some code that represents 85-90% of the same work that all the menus do, and then come up with a way for me to eloquently build out the last 20% of functionality that's specific to that menu system. And the menu system is basically, you have a screen, contain menu items. There's data that says here's where you draw the menu items. I mean, obviously the menu items are not incredibly freestyle, but it tells you where to draw it on the screen. And then when you select that, it needs to be able to tell the navigation system, okay, you've selected that menu item. Do you need to go to another menu? for another selection, because ultimately when you hit the end of that menu selection chain, it's going to then call a system function that says, okay, here's all the parent children chain selections, and do with it what you need to do. Kind of the idea. And you run in the situation where, like, okay, I got an X and Y coordinate for this menu. When I select it, I'll need another set of XY coordinates to handle a level N. And before long, you have all this data everywhere. So either you have chaining objects, each object only handles that screen's selections, and then you hand it off to another object that does the same thing, and then you can go up and down that chain, or you remember all of the variable names, like main menu select X, main menu select Y, submenu X, submenu Y, submenu X, submenu Y. Or you get to do fun things like, multi-dimensional arrays, like menu 0, comma 0, menu 0, comma 1. Or create objects. Or run into analysis paralysis. You could put it into a dictionary. Yep. And that's what I was just about to think about what I was trying to do. Since I'm using generic classes, abstract generic classes, which is nice, but what happens? I need to now reference a list. I need to return a list of more generic libraries or generic classes. At the first level, you're instantiating. You're creating, like, for example, I'm saying, okay, I have my menu screen, which is going to contain. It's going to be of type T. What is T? Why do I have T? I don't want T anymore. Oh yes, the screens themselves. So. I got it. Okay, I had to sit and think about this a little bit. So yeah, you have like a list. Well, I don't use a dictionary now. I have like a list of screen items that go into the screen. That's abstract. The idea of a menu item itself is abstract. Then I'm going to create, just for an example, the main menu item, which uses enumeration of town POI as its data point. And then I create a dot menu screen main, which then basically says which is going to be a collection of these type of items. Can't I derive that? Isn't this nope. I'm just kind of wondering. You would think that this infers this. Why do I have to keep saying it? Oh, I'm just going to do it. So what I'll probably end up doing is individually creating this menu screens, but inside of a menu item, you could have a dictionary. Can I? It's either a dictionary or a key value for all the navigator holds all of the screens by name, and then menu items would have a collection, like what's your next screen, potentially. Or, yeah. Or I break down and start making some interfaces. Made an interface, then I could say, I need a list of these interfaces. And that would clear up a lot of things. I mean, this would ultimately make it work. I mean, it makes it work. You could do something like... public list. Yeah, got a loss of thought there, sorry. But yeah, I did not put that in a dictionary as of yet. It's gonna be the same thing as up here. A screen yet, so can't make one. Here I do, so I'd say menu. Menu, main. Menu? No. Menu, screen. No. Menu, main screen. Can I spell anything correctly? I was thinking. You're going to have an interface no matter what. You're going to have an interface. Yep. Public interface. Menu system. I know, I probably should ask Copilot to convert this, but I don't like AI. Oh yeah, so what I did was I cheated. I see the game behind me. I went ahead and made a movie of me moving through the maze a little bit, and then on OBS I set that movie to replay. I turned the sound off of it. Actually, I tried to mute when I recorded it anyway. And then I tell the media resource to play it like at a quarter speed, so that it kind of has just endless loop of moving through the maze as a gimmick. I noticed that I had to slow it down because I was getting motion sick watching my own stream. So I thought, I want to slow that down just a little bit. Yeah. Yippers. So I'm getting a little too smart for the old britches. What I'm trying to do is I'm making generic classes, and I'm like, okay, by creating a generic class with types like this, abstract class, you're actually creating like an infinite no long as you're within the constraints, an infinite number of abstract classes, which then you specifically go instantiate an abstract class of .menu screen of type, which then makes that, once you get to that point, you're no longer generic, very specific. And if I have a system working off of the abstract system, this is C#, then what would happen is okay, so how does it know to translate between a generic pointer, as it were, to these different types of very specific combinations of T and E? You can't. That's why programmatically. So the only way you can is I need to convert this back. So if this is just an abstract without any type, then you could do that. But if I want to do another layer of abstraction, like say, hey, I want that screen object to render the screen. But with this, generic type information in here, I have to create the parent system has to know to call the X combination of menu screen. So it's either menu screen A of B, menu screen B of C, menu screen of C of D. It'd have to know what those types were every time it did that, and it kind of defeats the purpose of, hey, object dot do something, and then let the object actually know what to do. The screen, the parent object doesn't care what the object needs to do. It just says do it. So because of that, you need another layer of abstraction that will yield, hey, object do something. And now you have a complete use case for this is why you really need to have an interface. So these are virtuals like this. So what I could do is comma I dot menu system. I need to add these two. And of course, virtual doesn't understand. Wow, you can put virtuals on menu systems? This is a new C#, higher level C# version. Could not do that. I can kind of understand. Man, I hate these features where they're starting to blend more capability into something that probably shouldn't have that capability. You're kind of getting that weird blurred edge. Interesting. From a pure interface standpoint, having a virtual Interesting. It's just interesting. Wow, if it supports virtual, then in theory, you see, it doesn't violate. It's basically saying, I have an interface with an optional. It just translates to, oh, I'm going to call that function with, that doesn't do anything. My head hurts figuring out why you'd want to do that. For now, I don't need it. I'm not going to worry about it. I just don't want to. I don't want to have it. But I could kind of see. I'll have to bookmark that in my brain somewhere. Okay, so because the abstract class is doing this, then the rest of the derivatives will work. Now, what's its problem? What have I done? I need to pass in. Why did I do this? What? 25 glorious errors. What have you done? Broke the crap out of it. Oh. I need to pass in the type of item dot menu item of dot menu main item. There. Well, type D. Okay, that works. Now let's go back to make sure this didn't. I think I cut it somehow by accident. Comma. Are we going to puke? We are puking. Why are we puking? There's no box in conversion. Oh, that sucks. You mean I gotta do this? No. What? Okay. Let's my quick stuff. I'm supposed to have an option to implement. I think I broke it. Broke the crap out of it. restart my IDE. I'm missing some functionality. Has to be. It should say, hey, do you want to implement explicitly or implicitly this interface? Of course, I want to do an explicit. What am I forgetting? This is probably why they made it virtual. Well, that don't make sense. What can I... Here's the problem I found. Since the upgrade, this has been broken. It fixates on a problem and then prevents something else from happening. Where's my error? What on earth is going on? Can you not put... Syntax. Oofda. Hey. Put the declaration in the wrong place. What? The place you put it. Makes sense. Still to the compiler, just in the wrong intention. And there we go. I bet all this will be just fine. Rabbit hole. I love rabbit holes. Not. Oh, so fun. Yeah, no errors. The order of where you put the stuff is very important. Yeah. No, it's not. Found out the, here we go. I see you stream once in a while. I have a chance to give you a shout out to my small user base here, but if everyone had a chance to see that, that'd be great. Absolutely. All right, so putting the interface in the appropriate list of things that you're deriving from, not to the constraints, and then false negatives ensue, and you start changing code and realizing I'm an idiot. There we go. All right, so because I have an interface, I could now do this, I think. Let's go into the base class of the menu item. That's not the base class. That is. That's not it either. Wait. Oh, why do it? Menu screen. What is the menu item? Say, why do I do that? I don't want to do that. Let's cut and paste the wrong place. Okay. I do want to do this. Just for now. Well, we could use a dictionary, but we're not really using any text to object lookups. So we'll just do this. List of type DOT menu system. Come on, IntelliSense. Don't be so intelligent. Don't want all of that. Submenus. Get set and just do this. Right. Actually. So. Oh, I do a little bit of filtering. I apologize for that. I think it has some moderation going on with the Moonbase. Your message got a little bit asterisked on me. The submenus. I could use a dictionary object. But if you only have like 4 or 5 items you want to look through, I mean, you can almost use a find within the list of your collection without the overhead, and it wouldn't, be negligible. And I could make use of the an array type of indexing. Of course, with the dictionary, you could use the string indexing. Yeah, so I mean, if you did something simple like that's value. So like that. Actually, it wouldn't even have a list. It's going to be simply a submenu, honestly. Oh, yeah. Because when you select that menu item, you don't have multiple screens to go to. You're just going to have one screen to go to if you can have a screen at all. In theory, you can technically do this, but I'm not using globals right now, so. Interesting. And when you create something like that, yes. Let's say we had. All right, so we can do this. Public class, menu screen, guild. Technically. All right. Some of these items could be collapsed. Actually. Technically, town is a collection of screens, so you might as well have this. Multiple screens based off the different kind of screens. So you could just kind of make a couple of them here. Welcome. I don't know why I did that. That's okay. Get me here and guide. Guild. In. Let's then we got Bart's. Arcadia. Arcadia. Gnarled Rut, and CCSE. Those are the main ones. This is the main screen. Yeah, right. Under the welcome. Oh wait, that's screen welcome. Huh. Interesting. Copy this one. Copy. And do this one. All right. I need to check out something. All right, everyone. I certainly appreciate your time being with me today and this evening. I have overstayed my time here by an hour, which is great. Able to get quite a bit done. Figured out some mysteries. I think I'm about to hit the snowball point of this generic system. Some strategies when I'm developing something like this after having a load of code that actually works, but it's a little difficult. And you're looking down the idea of I need to rewrite this and change it. And you're like, do I need to do that? To get over that, but you need to. So you got to approach the problem with, that you have to start incrementally and start small. what is it you need? I need some abstraction. Well, what kind of abstraction? Well, I need the main and the items. Okay, well then build the main and items, nothing in it. You know, what are the names supposed to be like? Well, let's kind of get a naming structure. Okay, you set those things up. Look at one of your simpler screens that you have. All right, so what are you trying to replace? Well, when you go to town, you have all the sub places you can go inside of a town. That's a pretty simple structure. Here's your list of places to go. You get to select them for the most common basic part of the menu system that you'd probably need to use. All right, we'll implement that. Start off with, what do you need to make an item represent itself? What do you need to navigate through those items? How can you put those together, like using like a navigate up, navigate down, and then implement that at the screen level so that it can move cursor, there we go. I got a tiny screen of mine. You start building off of that. So what seems to be insurmountable, or this work I got to redo, don't think of it that way. Think of it as, okay, let's just start simple, big picture, big piece of rock, you got to chisel. Let's just start kind of chiseling, and it's a little bit of a problem solving. It helps you get what needs to be done without being overwhelmed, because you have all that tech that you just built up and it's fresh in your mind. At some point there's a bridge where things start working out. You start seeing the flow, because it was already working in the back of your head. You just haven't worked it out yet, right? Well, now you're starting to work it out. You start to get to that pivot point from it's a pain in the butt to, hey, this is kind of fun. I like to see how this works. Now it's like, oh, this might work really well. Now you have inspiration. Now you get over that hump. Before long, you know that you've redesigned that subsystem. But, don't get too, remember some of the pitfalls when you first created something, and don't fall for those again. Try to, and work off of that. But yet, so what ends up happening is you refactor a little bit, but you end up making a piece of code that is more replicable, a little more logic. It's going to follow logic as expected a little bit better. And when your future self comes along and goes, I need to add another menu, the system is very applicable to, I could easily add another menu and just change what I need to change, because I've kind of mapped out how to change. So, any advice I'd have for something like that, that helps when you have to do something that you don't like to do, you need to do. At least it's working for me a little bit. Probably when I wake up tomorrow, I'll be like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This is dumb. But for today, no, I do appreciate that. I'm glad you have spent some time with me today. I'm trying to get back more into a reliable schedule. I got things I'm doing after work and things like that. There was a slump a little bit because of, first of all, busy with the end of year holidays, and then I'm working on some pretty heavy tech code. It's kind of hard to stream. That very, very select few that really like to watch. Oh, he's coding some heavy stuff, and I'm not going to talk about it as much. I try to talk about it, and it's streaming, so when I do talk about it, it will slow down, especially if I want to get something done. And I've also been feeling guilty about working on off stream and not sharing it a little bit. So anyway, I appreciate your thanks, and I will probably raid into someone at a later date, but today I'll just go to end the stream. Hopefully, things I got to remember as a streamer: when you're exporting your VOD, say to YouTube, do not publish it and export at the same time. What ends up happening is your 4-hour stream takes the last 15 seconds of your goodbye everybody and repeats that for all 4 hours, and that's your VOD. So publish first, make sure that works, then export, and then you don't confuse the crap out of YouTube. It didn't fix itself in 2 days, so I lost my stuff. That's all right. Anyway, for anyone who happened to see that, hopefully, if you find yourself in that predicament, that might stop it. Or, coincidence, it just Twitch kind of went, who knows? All right, well, thank you so much. I will, I think I am streaming tomorrow at 8, I believe. Nope, Tuesday's off. Wednesday at 8. Should be the next one, and I'll try to be on time. Thank you so much, and have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be, and I certainly enjoy sharing some of my work with you. Thank you so much.